Hey gals, welcome to Binge Free Bestie, the podcast where we ditch the diets, break free from binge eating, and build a safe and empowered relationship with our bodies. I'm your host, Nick Carberia, a registered therapist who totally gets it. Binge eating and body image struggles? Yep, I've been there, done that, and I've got the therapy bills to prove it. But here's the good news, bestie. I've recovered and I'm here to help you to do the same. This potty is all about real, evidence-based strategies from my therapy practice, plus down-to-earth, relatable girl talk with me and some of my amazing besties and other experts who have their own stories, tips, and tricks to share with you. So, whether you're tired of the diet cycle, ready to ditch the shame spiral, or just want to feel more confident in your own skin, then you've come to the right place. It's time to get real about food freedom, body acceptance, self-care, and building a life you truly love. Let's get into it, besties. Hey besties, welcome back for another episode. I have something pretty cool for you today. So last night I ran a free masterclass. It was called Surviving the Holidays Without Food Guilt, Without Chaos, or that very familiar I Will Start Again in January spiral. So what I did was I shared some practical tools from my therapy practice, from within my program, The Breakup, gave some psychoeducation to help people to feel calm and in control through this holiday season, and to help you have a little bit less pressure, because we know that New Year's Eve is looming, which means you may be starting to tick away in the back of your mind thinking, well, what's the plan? What am I going to be doing in January 2026? Am I going to do keto? Am I actually going to try food freedom? Am I going to learn intuitive eating? Or am I going to go back to Weight Watchers or whatever it is? I mean, you've got a whole smorgasbord of choices, and that is so bloody stressful. And I want to acknowledge that. And so I did this free masterclass last night. It was awesome. The chat box was just popping off. Women were really resonating with it. And I was just thinking today, I want to get this out to as many people as possible. So I've decided to put the audio of that masterclass on the podcast today. So you're going to get to experience the masterclass from last night, which is pretty cool. So bear in mind though, of course, means that the quality is not quite as good. And it also means that you'll hear me chit-chatting with the gals who are in the masterclass with me. So you're going to get why you feel out of control around Christmas, what to do if you happen to overeat, and also how to navigate diet culture, comments from your family. You're going to get some stuff around boundaries and scripts and some emotional regulation tools. That is super cool. And you'll hear me say as well that I have a worksheet and an EFT tapping practice for people to try. So I'm going to pop that in the show notes for you to try as well. So I hope you enjoy this. Have an amazing holiday season and give the strategies and tools that I share in this masterclass a wee try and see if it helps you get through this silly season with a little bit more calm, a little bit less chaos, and keep an ear out for what I share at the end, because I have a massive announcement that I put out last night and you're going to hear it at the end of this episode. So take care and I'll catch you next week. Understanding what is happening beneath the surface during this holiday period, because food does take up so much headspace, feels chaotic, and it can also really dictate our self-worth. Our self-worth, whether we did well this Christmas, whether we controlled ourselves, maybe whether we ate too much, maybe the way that we managed family dynamics, all of this can really dictate how we view ourselves this kind of time of year and the decisions that we make leading into 2026, because we know that there's going to be that pressure to set goals, and maybe some of them will be around things like food and eating in our bodies. So tap yes in the chat if you feel like this time of year can really mess with your relationship with food or maybe your body. I'm guessing it's going to be a yes since you're here. Yep. Sarah says yes, so does Tracy and Julie. Yeah, so we're all in the same boat. It is a rough time of year. You are not alone in that, And so, what I'm going to do is, I'm a registered therapist. I'm also a recovered binge eater myself. And I'm going to give you some insights into why this time of year is particularly hard. And then we're going to give you some practical tools to get through this holiday season, through that new year, new you kind of bullshit that's going to definitely be popping up right about now. And I'm going to give you a new approach. So, one that's going to feel a lot calmer, a lot kinder, and something that's actually sustainable. Because as we know, we start something fresh in the new year and we usually fall off it around March or Easter. So let's get into it. Does that sound good? Let me know and we'll get started. Oops, next slide, please. There we go. So cool. I thought a really good way to kick off is, before I break it down for you, I really want to take just a moment to let you know why I know the way that you're feeling. I know how it feels to be in the trenches. Before I was a registered counsellor here in New Zealand, before I launched Binge Free Bestie, before any of this existed, Christmas was most definitely the hardest time of year for me. Definitely. This time of year is just, there's food everywhere, right? And it's usually food that I had labeled as bad or naughty or like guilty pleasures, foods that I had been trying not to eat all year, my binge foods. And on top of that, the family gatherings that I was going to, I always felt so watched and I felt so judged. And most of the comments that I got were meant to be harmless, they were meant to be helpful. Comments like, oh, we're just worried about your health, or, do you think you really need that third serving of trifle, or whatever it was. They were very hurtful and they very often sent me into a headspin, into the next binge spiral. So even when nobody even said anything to me, I could still feel it. It was hanging in the air all around me. I was always waiting for the next comment. I was always walking around on eggshells. I was really self-conscious and it was just this constant noise. So I'd eat properly most of Christmas and then I'd fall off the wagon at night time. So I'd take home the leftovers from the events, wait for my partner to go to bed, and then I would eat the 3 leftover servings of pavlova in the night, or the 4, or the whole thing. And it was the cycle that went around for that whole season. And then, of course, year after year, it was the same. So New Year would always come around, right? And then I had tried everything: diets, meal plans, rules, tracking, be more disciplined, wellness and mindset hacks. If somebody was offering something to fix me and my chaoticness around food, my binge eating, I I gave anything to have that. I took out loans on credit cards. I took out my entire KiwiSaver. If you're not based in New Zealand and listening to this, that is our retirement savings that we have here. I withdrew that entire thing to have weight loss surgery in my early 20s because I thought that that was going to be the solution to curing binge eating. Turns out altering your body actually does not provide a long-term sustainable solution to that. So believe me when I say I've tried it all, every diet under the sun, and some of the most extreme measures to try and have a sense of control in my body and around food. So is anyone hearing themselves in this story? Has anybody been in this similar cycle of feeling out of control, feeling ashamed, having maybe secretive behaviors around food, hiding, or almost having like this second life away from your family where maybe you get up in the night or eat, or you're eating secretly in the car? That was a big one for me. And the guilt and the shame. The thing with binge eating or emotional eating is it really thrives in isolation and it thrives on your shame. And the shame is what spurs you into the next fix or the next diet or the restriction or over exercising to make up for it. So many, many, many of us are in this boat. 1 in 5 people So it's not gender specific. 1 in 5 people struggle with binge eating disorder. So it's very common, but it's not often spoken about. So just wanting you to feel seen in that and know that the struggle, it ain't just you. So what changed for me in my journey, my recovery journey, was, I guess the turning point was when I had that surgery. I got to my dream body, I got to my dream weight. And after about 6 months in that kind of honeymoon period, the binge eating returned. And although I had a smaller tummy because I had part of my stomach removed from that surgery, I was still doing the same behaviors. So I was still eating in secret in my car. I was eating to numb my emotions and dissociate. I was feeling extremely guilty and ashamed of myself. And I was eating past to the point of fullness to when I often felt quite ill. I wasn't listening to my body. And so that is when I decided I really needed to sort this out. And so I did. And it wasn't easy, but I've been binge free since 2019. And as you girls all know, since we're all Kiwis here now, it's really hard to get support around this. I mean, so often we go to our GPs and they tell you to just eat less and just move more. Or we try to talk to family members who tell you, just try keto, it worked for me. Or maybe you hire a dietitian and they just don't quite get it because they haven't lived it. So, welcome into this space. Welcome to my space here at Binge Free Bestie. I'm going to give you the tools and strategies that, through a few years of trial and error, I know work, but I've also got clinical and academic experience in binge eating disorder. So this works, and I'm going to give you a few tools from my kit or my toolkit to get you started and pull you through this often chaotic season. So, what I want to start off with saying, what I want to touch on first is why we feel out of control around at Christmas or the holiday season. And I've started to touch on this, and I'm sure you would have, what I'm going to share now, you will recognize it in the story I just shared about myself, and you'll also recognize it in your own stories. So most women assume that the problem is Christmas, or the problem is that New Year mentality or the holidays themselves, that there's just too much food floating around, that it's all the naughty food, too many treats, too many temptations, too many comments from their mother. But it's actually not the holiday season that is causing the binge eating or the overeating or the emotional eating or whatever label that you are using to describe your behaviors around food right now. The problem is not the holiday season, it is diet culture. Okay, and we're going to break this down a little more. The holiday season just happens to be the moment in time when everything that diet culture has trained you or conditioned you to think all collides at once. Okay, so it's not actually Christmas. Christmas is okay, Christmas is cool, right? But diet culture is not. And there are 3 big triggers that actually cause binge and emotional eating, and they show up all year. All year, but the holiday season amplifies them. These triggers, they're not personal flaws of you. As I said before, 1 in 5 people struggle with this. So it is actually a predictable response. It's a biological and psychological response that many of us experience. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to break down these 3 triggers, and I'm sure that you are going to recognize some of these in yourself. So, number 1 is physical restriction. And this is the one that kind of makes the most sense, the one that you might have heard of before. Tell me in the chat before we dive in, has anybody ever felt like once they start eating on Christmas Day or just during this period, it feels almost impossible to stop? Once you have that thing that you wait all year to have, I know for me it's like Nana's pavlova. It's like the food on the pedestal that I only let myself have once a year. Once I start eating that, I couldn't stop. So if that feels familiar to you, a cause of this may be physical restriction. And a lot of people, yeah, Sarah's saying platters are hard to stop, cheese and snacks. Okay, interesting. Park that thought because I want you to connect some dots as I'm talking, and Julie agrees too. Yeah, cool. So, if you have ever been on a diet, whether that was conscious or not, whether you have restricted what you eat, even if it was years ago, even if you didn't actually call it a diet, maybe it even looked healthy on the surface. I mean, sometimes, or nowadays especially, diet culture has become much smarter. You know, in the 80s and 90s and early noughties, it was really easy to spot diet culture. It was things like The Biggest Loser or, the waif thin models on Cosmopolitan magazine or Women's Health saying, follow this plan to lose 10 kgs in 10 days. Like that is all diet culture that's really easy to spot. But nowadays it's a lot smarter. It's dressed up as wellness, or it's dressed up as a kind of a mindset hack, or you know, it's gotten much better at surviving in amongst us. So even if it looked healthy on the surface, even if it's just been skipping the occasional meal, intermittent fasting is a good one, or just eating irregularly. Whilst doing these things, your body has learned something very important. And your body has learned that food is not always reliable. Okay? So when food is restricted, whether you did it purposely or consciously or not, through that dieting, skipping meals, cutting calories, macros, whatever it was, your body does not see that as self-improvement. Okay, your body interprets that as famine. And in that state, your brain and your body wants to survive. So what does it do? It increases the food noise, or all of that chitter chatter in your head around food. It heightens your cravings. So that urge to eat feels much more intense. And it's usually directed towards more of those energy dense foods. So, really high sugar or high carb foods. I mean, when you think about the foods that you overeat or binge on, it's probably not a salad, is it? It's those energy dense foods. Your body is just trying to keep you alive in response to that restriction. And why Christmas makes it worse, or the holiday season makes it worse, is because food is so suddenly abundant. It's all around us. We have this huge smorgasbord of stuff to choose from. And your body doesn't think, oh, great, I'll just continue eating normally. No, your body thinks, I need to eat now because it is available to me. And as I said before, because your body has learned that food is sometimes scarce, it's not always reliable. So it's going to respond by pushing you to eat more. It's going to make food feel more urgent, especially the foods that you don't always usually get. And it also makes it a lot harder to stop. So you eat past that point of fullness. And this is why willpower doesn't work. You cannot out-discipline your biology. And many women will say, I'm mostly fine for most of the year. It's just once I get into Christmas and all those foods come out and I'm surrounded, it's like a switch goes off in my head and it's a free for all. So I just want to say really clearly, yes, it is a biological and psychological response, but your body is not betraying you. Okay, it is protecting you. And when you can start to understand that and understand these triggers, the shame that we get when we do overeat, it can really start to dissolve. You can start to let it go. You can practice more self-compassion. And from there, you can start to make different choices because you are more aware of what's going on. So tell me again in the chat, pop on in and just tell me, does this resonate? Like, does this make sense? Is it something that you feel like may pop up for you this time of the year? Remember, we've got 3 big reasons why, so maybe this is not going to be your biggest one. But physical restriction is one of the reasons why this time of year can feel really quite tough. Okay? So the second one is mental restriction. Yeah, Sarah's saying yes, not always at Christmas though, through the year too. Absolutely. These triggers will pop up all throughout the year. Absolutely. The second one goes hand in hand with the physical restriction. So Tell me if you hear yourself in this. Who relates to that mindset when you think, well, I've had one piece of pavlova, or maybe the naughty second one. Screw it. I'm just going to eat the whole thing. Or you have two mince pies at Christmas, and then you're like, screw it, I'll just have another two mince pies. And then all of a sudden, by the end of the night, you've eaten the whole tray. That real kind of, I've fallen off the wagon. I've had one too many of the naughty thing, and now I might as well just finish the whole bag. I'm going to get it out of the house, and tomorrow it will be gone and I'll be able to behave myself. Yes, Tracy's saying, yep, that's me, and so has Julie. Absolutely. So it's this real black and white thinking around food, that all or nothing approach. That is mental restriction at play. So I'm going to break it down for you a little bit more. And welcome in for the girls who have just dropped in. We're going through the three big triggers behind why eating is super hard this time of year, slash any time of year. So we've got mental restriction. And this is the one that kind of catches people off guard, honestly, because you can be eating normally. So you can be eating your three square meals. So it's not that you're restricting physically, you're not on a diet, you are eating, but you may still be mentally restricting within the mind, right? So if you hear these kind of things in your head, this is mental restriction. I shouldn't eat that. I've been good today. Oh gosh, I've ruined it now. I'll start again tomorrow. I need to save calories now for later. Or I'll make up for this tomorrow. Any of that sound familiar? I sometimes refer to this like as your binge brain, or your diet voice, you can call it. It's nice to give it a label just to separate it from you, because this is not your highest, healthiest self. This is the piece of you that is being conditioned by diet culture, and it doesn't always have your best interest at heart. So Sarah's saying, yep, the forbidden Kai element resonates from starting when I was young. Absolutely. And these triggers, yes, we are conditioned by diet culture, which is all of the things and messages that we hear around us from media and TV, but it's also the things that maybe you heard your mom or your auntie say, the conversations in the staff room, maybe teasing at school when you were young about your body or what was in your lunchbox can also stem from trauma. So there's many places that we learn these things over time. And I kind of stick it under the diet culture umbrella, but of course we know it's a multifaceted thing that has grown within you for decades. So that is what mental restriction sounds like and shows up like. And the moment that you notice that food is forbidden or it's conditional, then that food goes up on a pedestal. Okay. And your brain will start treating it like it is rare and like it is going to disappear, and you better have it now because you're not allowed it later. And then, so of course, times of the year like this, when those treat foods come out or things that you're not usually letting yourself have throughout the rest of the year are on full display, of course, that's a minefield. So that is another reason why this time of year can feel really, really tricky, because all of a sudden you've got that smorgasbord of choice of those things that are usually off limits. And we know how the forbidden fruit effect works. You let yourself have a little bite and then all or nothing kicks in and you're like, well, I'm just going to clean off the whole plate now, aren't I? Yeah, I can see some head nodding in the video there. So that one's familiar too. The final big trigger that I want to share with you guys, it's all about unmet emotional needs and nervous system dysregulation. So who notices that your food urges are strongest when your emotions are high? Okay. Or you're dysregulated. So things like stress, overwhelm, maybe you're bored, lonely, maybe you've been around your auntie Doris, who's just constantly talking about her body, or worse, your body, and you're feeling really frustrated or hurt or angry. Yes, Sarah is saying, yep, absolutely. I mean, this is emotional eating, right? And it's very normal because food does serve. Absolutely. And we've learned that across a lifetime. So Christmas is full of things that are going to activate the nervous system. You've got family dynamics for one. We've got unspoken expectations. We've got comments about our bodies, comments about what we've chosen to put on our plate or not put on our plate. We've got comparison. Maybe you compare yourself to other people in your family, or maybe other people compare you with your sisters or your cousins, or, this is very common. Julie's saying, yes, when she's tired, absolutely. Tiredness, boredom, agitation are usually the biggest emotional triggers for that emotional eating. So, yeah. Also, these environments that we go into at Christmas do not always feel emotionally safe, do they? I mean, even if you love your family or even if you enjoy your job and your colleagues, when we have to go into work parties or family dinners or whatever it is, you can still love and enjoy these people, but feel dysregulated around them because of that anxiety about will they make a comment? Will I lose control? Am I going to feel guilty about eating this tomorrow? All of that is going to make you feel unsafe. And when your nervous system is activated, so you're tense, anxious, on edge, your body is going to look for the easiest tool to regulate. Sarah says, yes, I would go to the snack table at a party as a safe place. I was exactly the same. I would always have a little snack plate that I would make up for myself, and it was like almost like a force field around me. I'd use it as a shield in a way. Do you do that too? It's comforting, it's soothing. It gives you that relief. So of course, it makes sense that you're going to walk around the party with that little plate of ammunition, basically. So food serves, it distracts, it grounds you. We know as well, it doesn't make you weak. You would never tell a child that they are weak for this or for wanting food when they're upset, or for wanting that ice cream once they get a boo-boo. That is just a very human thing, okay? But again, this is why willpower kind of goes out the window again, because when our emotions are high, when we're dysregulated, I don't know if you guys have heard of the hand model of the brain, but for those who can see me in the video, hey Amy, this is what your brain looks like. The brain stem, your gray matter, and if we look on the inside, this is your limbic system. And when we're dysregulated, bam, the logical, emotional, reasoning part of your brain goes totally offline, and you're not going to be able to logic or reason your way out of going towards the food or wanting to binge, okay? Julie says, not eating at a party in front of others, then coming home and eating everything in sight. That is also really normal because you are basically white knuckling your way through that event, being like, I can do this, I'm going to make it through, and I know that when I get home, I'm going to get my reward. I'm going to get my serving. That safe place at home when I'm on my own, and I can guarantee you plan it out too, right? Like you know what's in the cupboard, or on the drive home, you're already planning, okay, I'm going to get a bag of grain waves. Like for me, it was like I always had sour cream tripe grain waves or Burger King or whatever was my thing. And you'll have your special foods that give you that instant relief and satisfaction. Very common. And so, yes, you can't, again, reason or willpower your way through emotional eating. So, light bulb moments. Is anybody having those pinging off right now? I can see in the comments like there's just a lot of resonance here. Awesome. Amy, that I didn't get to tell you at the start, but what we're doing is if you want to share, you just pop in the chat, and that's how we're all sharing together. Sarah says chocolate is a go-to. Yes, I think that's for most of us, right? Is choppy. And it's interesting too, one thing with our binge foods is they're usually hyper specific. So we'll have like chippies, but it'll be a certain brand and a certain flavor. Well, the same with the chocolate. Like I only do Whittaker's and it has to be, I don't know. Oh, I like that brandy snap one, that Christmas themed brandy snap one at the moment, and you just go straight for that in a beeline. So those are your three big triggers. Da, da, da. So I'm going to put it all together now. So what we've got this time of year is we've got a body that has spent a year primed in physical restriction. We've got a mind that is most likely full of food rules. And we've got a nervous system that is under pressure. So does that make sense then that this year would feel, time of year would feel extra chaotic, a little bit harder, and that food would be the easiest way to serve and get you through this dysregulating, messy time? Yeah? So tell me in the chat, you'll see on the slide there, we've got numbers 1 through to 4. Which of the triggers do you think show up for you the most in your life right now? So is it that physical restriction, 1? 2, the mental restrictions, so like food rules, having that black and white thinking, labeling foods as good or bad? Or is it more of that emotional dysregulation nervous system? Okay, so Sarah is saying 3, so is Amy. Awesome. Of course, it can be all of the above, which I'm sure that they all come in and out at certain times of year. Yeah, Julie, all of the above. Absolutely. So I just want to reiterate then that if you've been saying, I can't be trusted around food, I always ruin it, I just don't have enough willpower, I hope you can see now how wrong that story has been. Okay? You have just never been taught to feel safe and grounded and calm around food. It's not a conversation that we often have in our families. And again, we are constantly bombarded with messages from diet culture about food and eating in our bodies that even if your family did have a few really great conversations with you, 90% of the messages that you get around food is very confusing and contradictory. So it's no wonder that we carry around these stories that it's our fault that we struggle. So now you understand why it's hard, why we overeat. I want to give you some tools, okay? So, okay, what I think is a good place to start is you're coming into this holiday season. I think it's likely that you're going to overeat. We can assume that. I'm going to overeat this time of year too. There's actually nothing wrong with overeating at times. Holiday season is a time for joy, connection, community, and kai and food is something that we share with people that we love and celebrate the moment. And if you happen to overeat, that is okay. Okay, I want to start by saying that. There is nothing wrong with overeating from time to time, but when you're using food as your only coping tool, of course, that's when we want to work on it. So what I think that we should start off with the first tool for tonight is assuming that there might be a bit of overeating. I just want to make sure that you don't feel guilty about it, that you don't go into a shame spiral. And the thing is that that is what causes the most damage, not the fact that you ate too much trifle. That's not the thing that's going to make any long-term impact on your health or well-being goals. The thing that's going to make the biggest impact on you is carrying guilt and shame and beating yourself up and bullying yourself because you ate that extra bit of trifle. Okay? So the first thing I want to do with you guys is we just want to name this pattern. So it looks like this, and you can see it on the screen there. It's called the binge restrict cycle. That's the fancy clinical name for it. But you'll recognize it, and you would have heard it in my story, and I saw you guys nodding when I was saying it, so you're going to know and recognize it in your own lived experiences. It starts with that overeating, then the guilt hits and the shame, and then that kind of mental beratement comes in, the self-bullying. Why did I do that? I've ruined everything now. I can't be trusted. I'll have to make up for this tomorrow, or I'll start again in the new year. I'll do keto from January 1st. Um, I'm sure that's a familiar pattern, right? So it goes, we overeat, we feel ashamed of ourselves, and then as a result of that, we say diet starts tomorrow, or I'm going to do 1,000 burpees to make up for this 2 slices of pavlova. That's all fine and good. We start the new diet or the new mindset hack or whatever it is, but then life happens. And that might be Easter comes around and there's Easter eggs everywhere, and that chocolate is our binge food, and we lose control again. We fall off the wagon. Or maybe it's just you have one too many rough days at work and you choose to use food as your coping tool. We fall off the wagon, we overeat or binge again, and then it sets off that guilt and shame once again. And you can see how it just goes around and around and around until we break the chain. And the easiest place to break the chain is at that guilt and shame point. It's the weakest point, and it's a point where you do have a lot of control. But tell me before we move into how you can do that, do you guys recognize that cycle? The overeat, feel guilty or feel bad about it, decide to start the new diet or clean yourself up or do better tomorrow, and then life happens, you fall off the wagon again, feel guilty again, go back on the diet, life happens, we fall off, and so on and so forth. Is that familiar? It's pretty textbook. And one thing that I found really empowering in my own recovery journey was recognizing myself in a textbook. And I know that might sound strange, but I thought that the problem was me for so long. And when I learned that there were just these triggers and that it was that biological and psychological response, and so many people were having it, I just all of a sudden, um, don't get me wrong or take this the wrong way, but I just wasn't a special snowflake anymore. Maybe it's a Kiwi thing to say, but sometimes we feel like we're the worst or this is the hardest, but I just want you to know that that is not true. And if you are having these textbook responses, then the tools and strategies that are evidence-backed and work for every person who has been through a recovery journey, then they'll work for you too. Okay? You are not the exception to the rule. Sarah says, familiar, don't always restrict or compensate though. That's great. That's great. That means that you've got space in that cycle and you've already got growth and awareness. So let's keep building on that. That's awesome. And was it 1 in 4 or 1 in 5 people? 1 in 5. It's 1 in 5 people have binge eating disorder. So that's at the clinical level. So the clinical criteria for binge eating disorder is that you often eat rapidly, you eat past the point of fullness, there's the emotional fallout, which is the guilt and the shame, and eating those large quantities. And if you're just doing that a few times a week for up to 3 months, then you meet the criteria for an eating disorder. Although most of us don't give it that label, and that's okay if you don't want to. You can call it emotional eating, an overeater, whatever you want. The tools and the strategies will still work the same. So first thing we want to do is we just want to name it. We want to call it what it is. It's the binge restrict cycle. The next thing I want you to do is I want you to realize at this point that that is not a failure. And if you do overeat this holiday season, it's just information. It's just data, okay? It tells you that something was unsafe, or it tells you that maybe something was restricted, or something was overwhelming, or that something needed soothing, okay? It is data, and when you have data, you have choice. You have something that you can play with. If you start treating your overeating as a problem that needs to be punished or resolved, it's just going to keep that cycle alive and keep it going. But if you treat it as a signal or as information, you will be able to resolve it. Does that click? Does that click, guys? Let me know in the chat. Let's start to reframe it, name it, and reframe it. Okay. So once we see it for what it is, and we don't beat ourselves up if we do overeat, I'm going to tell you what to do to kind of reset and neutralize that moment. So there's 3 easy little steps that you can do. So the first is we're going to neutralize. Second is we're going to regulate. And third, nourish. Cool. And there's a bit of resonance there in the chat that this is making sense. Awesome. Feel free to ask questions at any time as well. So step 1, the neutralization. So that means if you overeat this holiday season, we're not punishing ourselves for that. So we're not going to skip a meal the next day, or just say you feel like you had too much at lunchtime that you skip your dinner that night. Of course, if you really are still full and you're not having any hunger cues from your body, that's not restriction, that's you just tuning in and listening. But if you feel like you overate at lunch, but come 7 p.m. you actually have some hunger cues come in, I want you to listen and honor that. Do not try to restrict because you feel like you ate too much at lunch. No compensating. So for some people, again, that's like over exercising the next day or later that night. So not skipping breakfast, we're not working it off, and we're not saying that we have to be a good girl tomorrow. Okay? The eating has already happened, and so if you're compensating or punishing yourself for it, it doesn't undo it. It doesn't change anything that has happened, but it does set up the next binge. Remember, if we punish, or if we restrict, or we feel that guilt, you are just firing up that binge restrict cycle. It keeps you stuck. So we're not going to punish ourselves or compensate. We are going to regulate. So when your body is dysregulated, we know that you cannot logic your way out of this, but you can regulate your way through it. So I'm sure I recognize a lot of you guys from Instagram, and I know that you guys are already quite badass and have a lot of amazing tools and strategies and are all very wise women anyway. But what tools and strategies do you guys have in your toolkits already to regulate yourself when your nervous system is whack? I mean, is it just putting your feet on the floor and imagining roots coming down and grounding you into the earth? Maybe that's a bit woo-woo for you. Maybe just belly breathing, hand on heart, hand on belly, breathing through the nose, sending it down into your belly, expanding it like a big balloon. That's a nice, easy one. Maybe it's just hand on heart, feeling yourself, feeling that ebb and flow, breathing, sending yourself some love, fresh air, touch some grass. Like there really are so many ways that we can regulate. Fidget regulators, absolutely. And there's so many more tools now than when we were growing up, right? Like nobody talked about any of this stuff. But yes, we've got fidget spinners, we've got sensory boxes. So think about those 5 senses. How can you stimulate smell? So smell some essential oils, textures, like get a prickly ball or a stress ball and squeeze that. Use the fidget spinner. Massage. Yes, Sarah's saying massaging her hands. Tracy's saying breathing and going outside for a walk. Sarah, going into the bathroom in a gathering to check in. Absolutely. You can always excuse yourself from a space and you don't need to justify it either. We're going to talk about that a little later today about how to manage other people. But absolutely, feet on the ground, take a breath, come back into your body. And your senses, your 5 senses, are always the quickest, easiest way to bring you back into here. Awesome. So everyone's got some really cool ideas there, which is great. After tonight's session, I'm going to send you guys an email, and it's going to have a cheat sheet of everything we've talked about tonight and the strategies, and also a link to one of my emotional freedom technique videos. So in my program, one of the tools that I give the girls is EFT tapping. Has anybody ever tried that before? I feel like Sarah, you would. Yeah. So, and Julie too. It's like where you're tapping on your meridian points. And again, this sounds very woo-woo, but there's a lot of science behind it. And you're saying really beautiful affirmations, essentially. Tapping, talking yourself through. Tracy's tried it. Yeah, Sarah's tried it. It's one of my favorite tools. I actually did it 5 minutes before I jumped on this call, I did one for confidence and calm because public speaking, I actually don't like it. Honestly, it freaks me out. I was feeling very dysregulated before I came on this call. So I used my tool. I walked my talk, put my feet on the ground, and I did the tapping for some confidence. And I also did something called power poses, if you've ever heard of those before. You stand like a big starfish and you say, I am powerful. I am a badass woman. I'm so confident. Yeah. Just fake it till you make it. That's all I've been doing this whole time. I don't always feel confident. Now that I'm saying this, it makes me feel not confident. But I'll just flip back into that mode again. Yeah, Sarah's got a cute little star there. Fake it till you make it. Tell the body what you want it to feel, and it will follow. Okay, so we've said neutralize, regulate, and the final one is nourish. So the next meal that you have, if you've overeaten or you've had a binge, that next meal is not about correcting the last one. Okay, it is about care, it is about nourishment. You do not need to eat perfectly. You can have a big, beautiful Christmassy lunch of chicken and I know I keep saying trifle, but that's because I'm obsessed with trifle. Trifle, gravy, whatever your thing is, and you can have it again for dinner. You do not need to have rules and regulations around yourself, and you don't need to eat perfectly. So, what I want you to focus on is to eat consistently and to honor your hunger and fullness cues the best that you can. So, regular meals, aiming for those three main meals, snacks if you want them, okay? And eating every 3 to 4 hours is kind of the golden rule when we're talking about binge eating recovery. Actually, the cornerstone for binge eating recovery is regular, adequate eating. So it's every 3 to 4 hours, 3 meals and your snacks. It's really easy, but of course, when we've got that chatter of diet culture in your head saying you've already had enough today, what do you mean you're hungry? You just had a whole chicken for lunch. Like, what do you mean you're hungry? If you're hungry, honor your hunger. Okay? So that is the plan, Bessies. That is the 3-step plan. Pop in the chat. Does that make sense? Will you try your best to use these tools to neutralize, so not punishing ourselves if we do overeat, to regulate, use your regulation tools, and nourish. So keep eating your regular meals as you usually would. Put yes in the chat so I know that you're going to commit to that this holiday season. Sarah says yes, sounds good. Amy says yes as well. Awesome. Lee says yes too. Awesome. And Tracy and Julie. Fab. That is awesome. That is probably the most powerful thing that you can do to keep yourself well, to keep yourself safe during a season that feels messy and chaotic when it comes to food. Now, the final thing that I wanted to touch on tonight that is unique at this time of year is, of course, we are thrown into the room with many of our relatives, and maybe not relatives that we like, or maybe it's relatives who don't know you that well but feel very comfortable commenting on your plate or your body or what you're wearing or just anything, crossing boundaries, right? And as I was saying before, one of the big triggers is that dysregulation and feeling unsafe. And sometimes being in those environments, even when we love those people, can feel incredibly dysregulating and overwhelming. So, does anyone resonate? Does anybody have a particular person that's coming to mind right now who you're maybe not looking forward to seeing, or who always says something a little prickly or comments about you or your choices? I know there's definitely people in my life. Tracy, my dad, always has to make a comment. Yeah, there's always usually at least one person. And if it's not directed at you, maybe it's general, making comments about other people in the family. It's very common and it's very normalized in our society, isn't it? Especially amongst women. I mean, if we think about the way that we are wired, we all want to belong. That is the primary thing that we are wired for. And for some reason, we've also been wired to sometimes feel judgment without words. Absolutely, it hangs in the air. It hangs in the air. But we kind of seek that sense of belonging through gossip or making comments about other people. So just bear that in mind that even if it's not directed at you, you may hear it. And you're going to hear diet talk. You're going to hear, again, Auntie Doris talking about her macros or the new thing that she's starting from January 1st. And it may be triggering and it may make you uncomfortable. So this is what we're going to do about it. The first thing, you cannot change anybody else. We know this, we're all grown-ups here. If we think about our wheel of control, what is within your wheel of control? You, your emotions, your behaviors, your reactions, your worldviews. That's about it. You cannot control your mother, your auntie, your cousins, your father, and how he chooses to view the world, what he chooses to say, his behaviors, any of that kind of stuff. It's not our role in life either to educate these people or try to convince them to behave differently. If you feel safe with someone and they're open to a conversation, then sure. But it can be very dysregulating and kind of impact your recovery journey and your experiences if you feel responsible for trying to influence others or create that safer space. So just look out for you this holiday season. I know sometimes I've always felt like the one in the family who needs to wave the food freedom flag, anti-diet culture flag. But I've kind of given up on that, honestly. And I've noticed that it's been more effective to just role model, to just walk the talk myself. And if people come to me with questions, then cool. But other than that, I just, yeah, live it, breathe it, role model it, and I'm not taking responsibility for anyone else's healing journey. They have to have that epiphany themselves. And when they see you empowered and walking tall and feeling amazing in your body, doesn't matter your weight, your shape, any of that, and you are just owning it and you feel great, something's going to go off in their head and they're going to start being like, what is she doing? Like, why? What is going on with her? I want some of that. Yeah, seriously, so true. Don't waste energy trying to change them. Absolutely. And I know that, Sarah, you're a coach as well. So we learn this probably the hard way first ourselves, right? And so the first thing I want you guys to focus on then, knowing that we can't really influence other people, we can't push them into the next phase of their own healing journey. They have to have their own epiphany. That means we need boundaries. Okay, we need to keep ourselves safe, protect our own recovery journey, and protect our nervous systems. Have internal boundaries. That is the boundary within yourself. Okay, so it sounds like I don't need to justify my eating. I don't need permission to eat this or to eat another slice of this. And my body is not up for discussion here. Okay, these are basic mantras that you can hold or basic boundaries that you can hold within you. And I want you over the next week, so we've got 1 week until the holidays really kick off, or maybe tomorrow's your last day at work or something. I want you to define your own boundaries. You don't need to justify what's on your plate. You don't need to justify what you're wearing. You don't need to justify anything about yourself, okay? And when you're really grounded and know what your boundaries are, those external comments are going to be far less powerful. Although I will say this takes time to feel confident in this. It's not going to be an overnight thing where those comments don't hurt. But as you feel stronger and more confident over time, it will be like water off a duck's back. It will not stick. It won't be so sticky. So internal boundaries, and the second thing is just having some pre-prepared scripts or things that you know that you can say if things get a little tricky or a little prickly. So keep it simple as well. We don't want to get into a spiral. We don't want to get stuck in these conversations. I also understand you're not going to want to cause confrontation or conflict. Setting a boundary is not confrontation and it's not conflict, although it can feel that way, especially if it's not something that's familiar. or that you do very often. It was very, very hard for me to set boundaries around not talking about my food with my family. It took a long time, and it took a lot of repeated boundary setting, but eventually it does stick. And again, I think that was mainly through the role modeling. You don't owe anyone an explanation for why you want to put in a boundary, or why you don't want to discuss the next diet, or why you don't want to continue to talk about, um, whatever it is, how much weight your cousins put on there, and your auntie just wants to yap and yap and yap about it. Okay. Examples of things that you can say is, hey, I'm actually listening to my body, and that pavlova looks really good. It's, a celebratory season, and I'm going to enjoy it. I give myself permission to eat whatever I want, but thanks. Well, you don't even need to say thanks, actually. Or you can just say someone suggests a new diet or a new way of eating or something that they're doing. You can say, hey, all right, that's great for you. I'm glad that you're happy, but it's not very helpful for me. It's not helpful for me, or I'm actually focusing right now on listening to my body or tuning in to what feels good in my body. You don't need to debate, you don't need to defend, and you most definitely don't need to over explain yourself, which, of course, when we're anxious, we might tend to do. So tell me in the chat, guys, who finds other people's comments harder than the actual food itself? Is this the tricky part of the year for you? Maybe, maybe not. Type yes in the chat if it is, or be like, no, it's more me related stuff than other people. Okay. And just remember, yeah, Amy says, yes, it's other people's comments. And it becomes part of the culture and the family, doesn't it? It becomes so normalized to make these comments and have these chats, but we can be the one to start to break the chain. And again, it doesn't have to be through confrontation or trying to re-educate our whole family. It can just be by redirecting them, pivoting, and role modeling. You don't need to have perfect responses. What you can do, if it comes down to it, like Sarah was saying before, you can just step outside and take a breather if you need to, and use your regulation tools. You can take a pause from the table if you feel that there's some tension, whether that's in the air again or whether it's building within yourself. Keep checking in when you're at these events and when you're at these gatherings, and just check in. How am I doing? Am I feeling any tension? Am I tight? What emotions am I carrying? What kind of thoughts are going through my head right now? Okay, yep, I'm still feeling good. I'm still feeling grounded. Oh no, I'm actually feeling a little wobbly. I'm just going to duck outside, put my feet on the grass. Hopefully we get a beautiful sunny day. Fingers crossed we can kind of disperse across whatever place we're all packed in with our families. But toes in the grass, breathe in some air, belly breaths. Doesn't have to be a lot. Take a break, come back. You can protect your peace, and you can choose to opt out of these things at any point. Okay? So the goal is not to handle this or every situation perfectly. It's just to stay regulated enough to make choices that are going to support your relationship with food and with your body again and again. And when you can make those choices and you can stay regulated, then food is going to stop being such a battlefield at this time of year. So who's willing to try that? Pop in the chat, say yes, if you're willing to kind of go into these family gatherings this year, just with that awareness. And I hope that as we've been here tonight, yep, Tracy's in, Julie's in, Sarah's in, Amy's in. Awesome, awesome, awesome. And I'm in too, because as I was saying before, even though this is my thing and my family knows it now, and they've adjusted to what on earth is Nicole doing in the world, it didn't make a lot of sense to them at first. They will tack on to this new version of you. You have to just step into her now and own it and be the version of you that you want to be, and everyone else will have to adjust. I don't know if you guys think about things like the universe or manifestation. I definitely do. I definitely do. And Amy knows I am a big on mindset and manifesting and just showing up and making things happen. If you want to be a woman who is empowered, who is confident around food, calm around food, you have to just step up and do it. Make the choices, take the actions, and think if that version, what would that version of me do right now in this scenario? And trick yourself into it, basically. So cool, everyone is going to give that a shot. I'm so proud of you. It's not easy, of course, when we want to show up differently, especially around our families. Sometimes there's a bit of pushback. People don't like seeing us change, but do it anyway. You deserve it. You deserve the life of your dreams. You deserve freedom with food. You deserve to feel calm and confident and grounded. And you deserve to break this cycle because it's already been decades of it. And I'm imagining most of us here have children or grandchildren or young people around us who are looking at us and seeing our relationships with food and eating. And we break the chain for ourselves, but we also break the chain for those younger generations. And we show them that actually you can love your body no matter your weight and shape. You deserve to. That's your birthright. You get to enjoy food without guilt. Absolutely. It's part of the joy of being human. I mean, why have we got taste buds? It's a sensory, pleasurable experience, and you deserve to enjoy your kai. Okay? So, now you know the three main triggers behind that struggle with food. And you also understand that it's not the holiday season that is the problem. It's just that this season really amplifies everything and it really shines a big spotlight on these behaviors and mindsets and patterns that you've been living for years, decades. So we've talked about why it exists, some things that you can do if you do overeat or binge this season. And again, I'm going to send you a worksheet at the end of this with everything outlined and also a link to one of my EFT videos for you to give it a wee try. That one specifically is for post overeating, but I've got lots. I've got all different scenarios for tapping, so I can send you more if you have any specific requests. But it really brings us to the bigger question, doesn't it? What happens if you don't just like get through this season? It's not just about surviving the holiday chaos and the New Year stuff that is just around the corner, and we're all about to see bikini body plans and 10-day diet cleanse or take this pill, whatever, and everyone can get injectables now. And it's just like you've got all these options that are just about to get thrust into your face. But what if 2026 is about breaking all of this pattern for good? Okay? So who's tired of the cycle? I want to know. Who's tired of that feeling of loss of control or of swinging between being okay and then feeling like you've failed, going back and forth, back and forth? It's like a pendulum as well. Think of a cycle or a pendulum. Who's tired of carrying things like guilt and shame and confusion? What the heck do I eat? What is trending? What am I supposed to not eat right now? I mean, you listen to podcasts and it says don't eat seed oil, and then it says don't eat fruit, and then it says eat carbs, don't eat carbs, only eat sweet potatoes. It's overwhelming and confusing. Yes, Julie says yes, tired of the swing. Sarah's saying yup. Amy is saying yup too. Good. I'm glad you're tired of it, because you have to get to that point of exhaustion and being over the bullshit, basically. So that means, yes, I'm tired of the good versus bad talk. Absolutely. It is exhausting. It's exhausting, but it doesn't have to be. And imagine the brain space that you will have if you're not constantly in that tug of war, if you're not constantly just trying to deal with food noise. And honestly, I can understand the women who are saying, I'm choosing to use weight loss injectables because it gets rid of that food noise. It makes sense. We all want to get rid of that food noise. When it is something that feels like it's ruining your life and it's so loud, I understand why a tool like that would be appealing, but it's not getting to the root issue. Things like injectables, diets, or pills do not get to the root issue. They're band-aids. And when you stop using that tool, or you stop taking the pill or the injection, or you fall off the diet, the problem remains and the cycle amps up even further because you feel more ashamed of yourself for failing again. Okay, so we're tired of that. We're done with that. Absolutely. And you're still here. You've all hung around till the end, which is pretty impressive because we're right on time. I've shared a lot tonight. You've all said in the chat, I'm tired of the cycle. What I've shared tonight makes sense. This is maybe a new approach, or maybe it's not totally new, but it's just putting pieces together in a way that's really making sense. So what actually makes the difference at this point then? How can we break the cycle? It's through support. So like you've had here tonight, you've had community. How powerful has it felt just to be in a room of women who get it? Again, so often this thrives because we're so isolated and we feel like we are the exception. We don't see that there's the 1 in 5 who are also struggling. We just feel so alone in this, in our cars, eating the food or in the fridge at night on our own, but you are not. And the thing that makes a difference in any recovery journey is support and community and the approach. As I said, that's what's going to make it sustainable. So if you've been in my world already through Binge Free Bestie, you must have come across me either on my podcast or on Instagram. I don't know where everybody has stumbled across me, but you've probably heard a little bit about what I do. It's called The Breakup. And the reason I called it that is because it's about breaking up with that toxic cycle. It's breaking up with diet culture. It's breaking up with the binge and restrict cycle. It's breaking up with feeling like the problem is you. Think of all of that as like a toxic ex or a relationship in your life that has made you feel less than or worthless or doubt yourself. We are going to cut that out. We're going to break up with it once and for all. So in my program, I'm just going to talk to you about it for 5 minutes as we wrap up tonight's call, if that's okay. Is that okay? Pop in the chat just so I know. Yeah? Okay, awesome. So if we're going to talk about the breakup, it is built around my food freedom method. And as I said before, I swung through my recovery journey back and forth for years. I did a master's in counseling, and whilst I was there, I had access to resources, and I essentially trained myself at first. And I learned all about CBT, I learned about ACT, different therapeutic models, and I was my own guinea pig. I also went to India for a while and I studied yoga and mindfulness, and I took some of the bits that I liked from that and I whipped it all up together. A lot of trial and error, took a few years. But I created this food freedom method and it works because now I do this with women from all over the world. We use the method, we use the tools. I've been binge free since 2019 and I'm seeing results in the women I support as well when they apply the strategies. So the food freedom method, basically what it does is we address those 3 core pillars. So the physical restriction, the mental restriction, and that nervous system dysregulation or unmet emotional needs. So I've lived it, I've tested it out, I've refined it, and now I teach it to women all over the world, and it is so amazing. And Sarah and Amy, I met you guys both through the business challenge, right? Was that where I met both of you? I think so. For those who don't know, I did a business competition in June on IG. Oh, awesome. So I did it at a business competition in June and I entered Binge Free Bestie and my food freedom method in that competition, competed with 16,000 other businesses around the world, and I won. It was amazing. And basically, I am off to LA at the start of January to meet with Stephen Bartlett. So he's the founder, or he's the guy behind Diary of a CEO. And I've got investment from him in this business. I'm going on that podcast. We're looking at publishing a book together on this. So this is something that is growing fast and it's been validated because it works. So I have something really cool to tell you guys tonight. Since I kind of did that whole business challenge thing in June, I decided to use that mentorship and investment funds to level up the amount of impact that I can make in the world. The first thing I did was I developed a self-led version of the breakup. So that's where you can take yourself through your recovery journey. I've got recovery modules and a community. But as of tonight, like right now, I'm opening the doors to a live group coaching version of the breakup. So I'm very, very excited. You girls are the first to know. So it's starting in February next year. It's the first time that I'm going to be doing the breakup as a live group. So very big milestone moment for me. It's going to be high touch. It's going to be very intimate. And it is just for women who are ready to really rebuild their relationship with food. It's not just about managing it, trying to cope with it, but it's about getting to the root, addressing those triggers. If you're done with being alone on this journey, and if you want 2026 to be the year that you find food freedom, this is how you're going to do it. I have a promise in this program. It's a 4.5 month container. From start to end, by the time you get to the end with me, you will not be binge eating anymore. And I know that sounds like an ambitious promise to be making, but I've already got these results with women who are in the self-led container. So imagine being in the live group coaching calls with me as well. You're going to absolutely amplify that impact. So show you the next slide. I'll just give you a super quick rundown of what it involves. So you get everything within the breakup when you join the group coaching, but you also get 10 live group coaching calls with me. And as you guys know, I'm an expert in my field. I'm also a recovered binge eater myself. And what we do is we go through one of the 8 modules each fortnight together. The calls are 90 minutes. They're 6 p.m. New Zealand Standard Time on Tuesday nights, just so you know. Everything's recorded, so if you do miss it, you get to watch it back later. But yeah, you get 8 recovery modules. So we go through things like working through cravings, emotional regulation tools, how to rebuild that regular adequate eating, how to build yourself a kit or a toolkit of things outside of food, how to manage the binge urges and ride the wave, ride your way on out of it. And one thing that I've developed in the program is binge free coach Belle. So she is a 24/7 AI driven clone of me essentially. And so when you're not in the community and I'm giving you that personalized, tailored responses to your everyday questions, just say it's 9 p.m. I'm obviously not going to respond because I'm having good boundaries nowadays. But you can chat with Belle anytime. She's going to walk you through a regulation tool or a meditation. She's going to help you to analyze a binge and see what triggers were showing up for you. It's a very powerful and really exciting tool that's included in the program. And everyone gets bonuses, $1,500 worth of bonuses. So I've got a food freedom recipe vault. So it's all my favorite recipes that include my food freedom method. You get a first aid kit. So if you feel a binge urge coming up, it's a toolkit full of EFT, hypnosis, meditation, journaling prompts, all those in the moment tools that you need to get past the binge. Or the first aid kit is for after a binge to take care of yourself. And you get a really expansive mindfulness and nervous reset library. So again, this is a lot of the tools that I learned over in India. So again, breath work, somatic practices, joyful movement, more hypnosis. It's also ever expanding. So I'm adding more stuff to it as we go along. So lots of cool things in there. So group coaching, I think I'm really excited for it. It's going to be just a few women for the first round starting Feb because I want it to feel really intimate and I want you to know what it is like to truly be held and seen and celebrated as you move through your recovery process. And these are a few women, obviously this is all shared here with permission, from inside my community. These are the women who are doing the self-led version right now. Every day we come into the community, they can ask me any questions they might have. And you can see here women saying things like, I had no food noise today. I've had food noise every day for a year. that comment there was put in 10 days after she started the breakup. Just absolutely stoked for her. And we can see a couple of gals here talking about binge-free Belle. So Belle gave her a pep talk and then walked her through breathwork exercises. People starting to connect the dots about why they've been binge eating. So it's a very empowering space. And I just love these ladies so much because most of the time someone will comment something and someone else will beat me to it and already be in the community giving a pep talk or supporting another woman. And I just think, as we were saying before, binge eating thrives when we're on our own and we're feeling so stuck. And I think the most powerful thing we're doing is we're building a tribe. We're building a community of women from all over the world as well. So we've got Kiwis in there, Aussies, we've got a few girls from the UK, and we've got one from the US so far. So we're slowly but surely growing, and I'm going to be dismantling diet culture right here from New Zealand, but we're sending waves out across the globe. That is my plan, the biggest impact possible. So, as I'm launching it tonight, I obviously want to do a little gift for you guys since it's launch night. So if you want to join me, that would be absolutely amazing and such a powerful way to go into 2026, right? You will be able to go into the new year. Yes, we start in February, but you will know that you have a plan of action, that 2026 is going to be different, that there's no pressure to try and pick the thing that you're going to work on for health and well-being when January 1st comes along. So what I'm doing is I'm offering, if you enroll before New Year's Day, you can take $500 off the total price, just because that's the first live cohort ever. I'm not going to be doing discounts ever on anything that I do anymore, just because of having firm boundaries and owning my worth. But for this kind of first cohort, to kind of honor people who take fast action, I'm going to do this, guys, for you. And as I said, if it's not the right time to invest in group, you can always do the self-led recovery, and there's payment plans. It's very accessible. So that's what I do. I hope that has been helpful tonight. I hope that you have an awesome Christmas period and that you're feeling a bit more grounded, a bit more empowered coming into this season, and that you understand that, hey, it's actually not the food, the trifle, the family, or whatever that's the problem this time of year. It's a really entrenched set of behaviors that maybe I've been in for a few decades. It's some triggers that now that I understand them, I can use strategies to start tackling. And it's been diet culture whispering in the back of my mind all this time. And now that I can hear it, and now that I can name it, I can do something about it. So I hope that you found this helpful.